What up, everyone? This is Mr. Lord, Dr. Professor, Dark Joker, here with another edition of Traditional Fans with Opinions, where I'll give my reviews for whoever I watched, read, or played today. And who are Traditional Fans with Opinions? That is myself, and that is you, the viewers. With all that being said, on with the reviews. Chainsaw Man, Chapter 224. So in this chapter, Yoru tries to turn, the American flag that's on the moon into a spear, with the moon, like the America's claim to the moon being like a homing beacon. And so basically the flag crashes on Earth. Chainsaw Man dodges it. And so yeah, so basically, Chainsaw Man's just running from the spear, dodging it, and then and yeah, so and basically Yoru trips, and then she's like, "Why?" She's like, "Wait, I'm not Asa. Why did I trip?" And then she's wondering how she was moving, and basically it was like she's missing her legs. And then she basically, so Chainsaw Man has like a bunch of devil pawns. Basically, he's just like, eating whatever. And basically, he tells Yoru to give Asa her body back, or he'll make a mess of her world. So basically, things are going to get pretty petty in this fight. So yeah, I thought that was a good chapter. Liked how they're gradually building up this fight. Obviously, it is gonna end pretty soon, and maybe the series with it. But yeah, I thought it was a decent chapter. Looking forward to the next chapter. Murder in Monaco. So this is a true crime documentary on Netflix about the fire that killed, billionaire Edmund Safra and one of his nurses. Basically, like, so Monaco known as being one of the safest places on Earth. Basically, so arson, well, was very surprising to people, especially with someone like as well off as Safra. Basically, very high security. And so another nurse, Ted Mayher, was basically the one convicted of it. Now there's other stuff regarding Mayher's motives, Safra's paranoia, questions regarding Safra's wife and other people maybe involved, like the mob. Basically, it goes into like what's known, what's speculated, what's basically what can be proven, what can't be proven. And so it doesn't come to a definitive conclusion basically on the causation of the fire, like motives, but it does do a good job at presenting the information. And yeah, it does what documentary should do, presents the facts. Like, I mean, based on the information is available, yeah, you can't really come to a definitive conclusion. Like, which happens with a lot of these mysterious events. You don't have enough information to have a definitive conclusion. So basically we could just speculate, give, hey, here's what we know, here's what we don't know. Just the evidence. So yeah, I enjoyed this documentary. Elway. So this is a documentary on Netflix about John Elway. So former quarterback for the Stanford Cardinal and the Denver Broncos. So this goes over, some of his struggles, how basically despite being a very good quarterback and everyone acknowledged it, like everyone agreed he was a good quarterback. He in college he never played in a bowl game because he was surrounded by not so great teams. So he never played a bowl game. And in the pros, he basically didn't have you had some, early struggles. due to the fact basically he was carrying the team, and there's only so much one guy can do. Even in football, by design, is a team sport. Like, it is very hard for one guy to carry a team. And when that does happen, when you have one guy carrying a team, when you take that one guy out, it really screws up. Like with the Auburn Tigers after Cam Newton left, you know, Auburn went down really bad for 2 years. And John Elway had some struggles, and then things started working out. He made it to 3 Super Bowls, lost those three, so there's a lot of criticisms that he can't win the big game. As a Georgia fan, I know those statements regarding coaches have happened a lot. So yeah, and then so of course he ended his career with 2 consecutive Super Bowls, with one of them being against his former head coach. And those are still, like his first wife, he got divorced due to, like, he wasn't around a lot due to his football career. I mean, which unfortunately happens with a lot with athletes. They're away from home a lot, and it affects things. How they hang out with their kids. And it seems that, like, he has worked things out with a lot of, like, with his family, and basically made peace with whatever issues he had in his past. So yeah, I thought this was a really good documentary. Did a good job presenting, Elway's life, his career. It made football is mostly what people watchers are going to care about. So football was definitely the main focus. So yeah, I thought this was a very good documentary. The SpongeBob movie, Search for SquarePants. So yeah, this is like the fourth SpongeBob movie. It's done 3D animation. I don't know why they can't just keep it 2D animation. That's my really only major gripe with this one. Anyway, so this one, SpongeBob has grown tall enough to ride a roller coaster. It can, let's just say, not one that would pass regulations in real life. I will say that, like a very dangerous. But when he sees it, he's too afraid. Not wanting to tell Patrick that he's too afraid. He says that he promised to ride with Mr. Krabs, so Patrick drags him to the Krusty Krab. SpongeBob gets Mr. Krabs to cover for him by Krabs saying that basically, yeah, they're too busy today, Krusty Krab. And so Mr. Krabs brags about his adventures as a swashbuckler, and SpongeBob wants to be a swashbuckler so he could be the quote the big guy. And Krabs said, "No, you can't." Basically, he's too afraid of stuff. And so SpongeBob's cleaned the restrooms. Patrick's looking at the swashbuckler certificate that Mr. Krabs had, and basically it gets ends up in an event. So SpongeBob goes to an event to find it, ends up in Mr. Krabs' basement, finds some of his relics from his exploits, and he finds this little like this horn that summons the Flying Dutchman, which is a horn that Mr. Krabs used to adventure with the Flying Dutchman. And so the Flying Dutchman lets SpongeBob aboard, and Patrick tags along. Mr. Krabs no, realizes that when he hears the horn, realizes that Dutchman's got SpongeBob. He gets Squidward to help Squidward and Gary to help him save SpongeBob, find the portal to the underworld. Basically, the Flying Dutchman's cursed. That's why he's a ghost. And he's cursed, and basically he needs a pure, innocent soul to, like, undo the curse. So SpongeBob, basically. And so Mr. Krabs, Squidward, and Gary, they head to Bikini Bottom High and find Davy Jones's gym locker, which has a portal to the underworld. So SpongeBob does all these tests in the underworld, and basically Dutchman tries to get SpongeBob to not play with Patrick so that he can focus on the challenges. Patrick's saddened by that, and so SpongeBob does the challenges. Mr. Krabs there says that basically he wasn't a spot where he lied that when he saw the other he basically ran away, and Miss SpongeBob angering Mr. Krabs for lying and wanting to he decides to go inside the citadel, whatever, blow the horn. But then Krabs tries to save him. But what happens is that turns the Dutchman to a human, and with Mark Hamill playing the human, because Mark Hamill in this movie voices the Dutchman. Usually it's someone else. Um, Hamill did do it, voice the character in one episode. So so basically, Mr. Krabs had said, he was a fry cook. He was like captain of a ship, and he also like SpongeBob enjoyed blowing bubbles. And so when Mr. Krabs would grab on SpongeBob trying to save him, he gets turned into a ghost too. So Barb, who is mad Dutch for not basically for abandoning her and the rest of the crew, um tells Mr. Krabs and SpongeBob that if they destroyed the horn, they can reverse the curse. But it has to be done before sunset. So they go to Santa Monica, where the Dutchman's at. They chase him, and then they eventually, after a chase, they destroy the horn and reverse the curse. So everyone reconciles. But it's funny. So everyone, but then they accidentally left Squidward back in the underworld, and Barb takes over the Dutchman's ship as captain while the Dutchman is you know on his kitchen duty. So yeah, I was surprised by how much I liked this. I thought this was a decent movie. Like I was expecting it to suck. Having seen Sponge on the Run and how bad that thing was, gosh, Sponge on the Run was that was just awful. That was and because SpongeBob still had the best years. When the the great Steven Hillenburg has not been involved. I mean, may he rest in peace. I mean, because obviously, the first three seasons, in my opinion, are like the greatest seasons of television ever made. Then you had the movie right after it, one of the greatest kids movies ever. Like, really, the first movie is one of the greatest animated movies of all time. Then you had the second movie, decent. That was like Hillenberg's grand return. Obviously, it wasn't as good as the first one, and you had the superpowers were not developed in that second one. Then you have the third one, pile of crap. This one, very simple. I would say this one's better than the second one. It's not as good as the first one, but it's better than two and three. So yeah, I thought this was a decent movie. It felt like classic SpongeBob. Stranger Things, season 5, episodes 5 through 7. So in these episodes, all the kidnapped kids are taken back by Vecna. Holly and Derek are the only ones who, well, obviously don't believe Vecna. And then, so basically Max and Holly try to go through Henry's memory, like Vecna's memories to try to find a way out, and takes way too long. And then, yeah, so eventually Max gets out, but Holly's kept captive. None of the kids believe. Now, there's a whole thing, there's this shield or barrier in the Upside Down. So Dustin theorizes, basically compares it to Return of the Jedi, the shield protecting Death Star. Right. If they destroyed the shield, they can destroy the Upside Down, defeat Vecna. It turns out he's wrong, but he's not able to tell Nancy and Jonathan quick enough to because there's some reception issues, and so basically Nancy and Jonathan are trapped, and so then you get to a dumb. There's a dumb scene of Nancy and Jonathan. They're talking about, I guess, because I guess in the year and a half since season 4, like within the show, obviously it's been like more than that in the in production time because Netflix is terrible at getting things done quickly. So obviously Nancy and Jonathan has some issues in their relationship, and basically so Jonathan bought a ring to propose, but he didn't know if he wanted to propose. I'm like, okay, your family doesn't necessarily have a lot of money. You're in quarantine, so there's not a lot of money. I don't know how much money is circulating around Hawkins. You bought a ring without knowing if you're actually wanting to propose. That is just financially retarded. And then he pulls her and say, "Hey, look, but he's like, but then they like, so Nancy John, they say they love each other, but then they decide but they want to break. I was like, that makes no freaking sense. Like, not even like CW has had some melodrama retardation, like, and in my opinion, that's basically all Friends is. But Friends tries to make it funny, even though it's dumb. Anyway, this show, it's like you can't write something this stupid. It's like he's like Jonathan's like, Nancy Miller, will you not marry me? I'm like, what the frick? Who writes that? That is retarded. Like that is dumb. It's like you pull out a ring to ask for Nancy to not marry you. That is dumb. You don't pull out a ring if you're wanting to break up. And then Nancy throws the ring. Like I mean, look, just from a writing standpoint, and look, what the reason for having like Nancy Jonathan break up, what the Duffer's reason were? Well, okay. Well, I mean, either I don't know, Jonathan's gonna die, and basically Nancy's just gonna get back with Steve. That's a possibility. Because I mean, my guess was going to the season was that Steve will die, and Nancy Jonathan will just have a son named after him. Like from story progression, it makes sense. Because I mean, that kind of thing is you have the, you know, basically in storytelling you have like a dead friend, and then the couple names a kid after him. That happens. That's a storytelling trope. Or relative. And it's done. Hey, respect the legacy of the dead character. That I mean, that is what happens. Anyway, but it's like so, and yeah, whatever the whole deal. Like, there's a lot of nothing that goes on. Like, there is so much nothing. Like, everyone's trying to figure out how to deal with Vecta, and it's like they're taking. I was like, why is this taking like seems like 10 hours, like 10 to 15, like 10 hours, whatever. Who for Vecna to do his plan? Like, season 4 was faster paced than this, and that had some long episodes. Yeah, the teacher who's like basically the main four boys. Their teacher who's like knows a lot about wormholes and stuff. He joins the group. Karen Wheeler joins. Ted Wheeler is like forgotten. Like he's still alive, I'm guessing, but he doesn't even appear. It's like basically people talk about the whole justice for Barb because I guess she's kind of forgotten. I mean, which yeah, there's some issues with that too. But I mean, you could excuse it by like, well, there were some signs of Will being alive due to like the lights and stuff. Whereas Barb doesn't seem to be the case. Same thing with Eddie. After he died season 4. As far as we know, like Barb and Eddie probably are dead. Like no signs of them possibly being alive. So at least in those two characters' case, it's a little excusable. Now the case of Ted, it's like okay, at least say if he's dead, if he died on, you can just say, hey, he died on the operating table. I mean, they don't kill off anyone, so they probably should have killed off the Wheeler parents, or at least one of them. Like, and like, so like, there's like no major deaths. I mean, like, no one dies. I mean, I understand, like, Steve, if he dies, it'll be in the finale. Yeah, a lot of the core group should not die until the finale. Like, Will might die. Like, so I think he's turning into Boris. Boris in D&D lore was a sorcerer that turned into a red dragon. Will has been called a sorcerer. Now there's a lot of debates where he's a sorcerer, wizard, warlock. they have used the term sorcerer. I think that is setting up him becoming Boris. How that happens, I don't know. You have the mind flare particles and stuff. You know, also with Vecna, like I think they're saying Will becoming Boris, which is because you had the vision Nancy had of a dragon that was a tease for Boris. I mean, come on, you had the mind flare, you have Vecna, you need you should you have Boris appear like and yeah, and 11 seems to not they have Callie tells 11 to hey yeah they have to die when they kill Vecna so that no one can use the basically recreate the experiments that led to all this. It's real that the upside down is a wormhole to something called the abyss. They get it from D&D. Basically, it's like a wasteland. Like the abyss is a wasteland, and the upside down is just a wormhole to it. So now one of the things we talk about is what happened is Will. So so they spent the whole season the first 4 episodes I thought were decent. Yeah, there was a lot of flaws regarding pacing being very slow. Overall, it was decent. Thought they were setting up some decent stuff. But these episodes, they were freaking terrible. Like what they did, like they should have focused on hey, you could have shrunk this. All the episodes that have aired, you could shrunk them down a lot, or replace it with stuff that actually explains more about the upside down, the abyss, and all the lingering plot points. Like actually explain stuff, or just shorten the episodes. Like simple. Especially with the binge model. Holy crap! Netflix needs to go weekly. Anyway, so with Will, there's a whole scene of him coming out the closet, and everyone hugging him. I was like, and basically it's like he has to. He's like I have to. Basically, he was trying because episode 4 this season ended with him accepting the fact that he was. It was him accepting the fact that he was gay. And then this set of episodes culminates with him coming out of the closet in front of everyone. Now, I thought they all knew because there was a whole episode where Mike says, "Yeah, we know you don't like girls." Like I thought that would mean okay, they all knew, and they don't bring it up. Like and basically there's okay, what they're they was okay, whatever. We got stuff. I mean, because here's the fact. There are bigger things than romance that everyone should be more I don't know, a wormhole that could wreck the entire Earth. That's like some interdimensional being that used to be a human. You have a bunch of kidnapped children. Like that does matter. Like Holly is still Max escapes. She wakes up from her coma. She can't walk. Holly is still captured by Vecna. All the other kids, they're they're not chained or entrailed or whatever. They're just basically they're they just think they're safe. Whereas Holly, no, since she knows it, she's held captive personally by Vecna. Like, but yeah. So obviously, the finale they're saying what's gonna happen with it. Are Callie and Elle gonna die? Is Will gonna die? Do they have to die to deal with in the mind flare particles and all that? And Hopper basically tells Joyce that if Callie is doing something to Elle, he will kill her. That is what Hopper said. And but yeah, these were terrible. These were the worst episodes in the show. Like holy crap! Like Like, really, you have so much nothing, and it's like, and it's like something, nothing. So like, there is so much nothing with a little bit of something, and then like a little bit of something at times, and it's like, what the frick? Why is there so? And like, because basically this is like so. Trey Parker and Matt Stone created South Park. They've talked about storytelling principles. They basically don't do the and then this happened and then this happened and then this happened, and which basically that's how Stranger Things season 5 is gone. Like first few episodes they got away with it a little because like they're setting something up. These 3 episodes, oh, it was trash. But it's supposed to be there for, but basically how it's supposed to be is replace and then with but or therefore, and basically you have gradual development, and that's what like you have development. This leads to this leads to this. Like it's progression, story progression. Like it's actual like setting it up, like building the story. There's nothing, and there's so many characters. Like it is dumb what they did. Like I don't know how they're gonna close everything in the final episode. Like it's either gonna be rushed or just be a bunch of nothing. Like I don't know. I ain't like these episodes. I'll watch the finale. And that's it. Did y'all like the stuff I reviewed? And if you have your own opinions about all that, you can put all that in the comments. Thank you for watching, and like, subscribe, and all that. And look forward to the next video.